Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest, you might know her on Instagram as Fierce Fit Steph. She is IFBB Pro League female pro bodybuilder, switched over this year from women's physique successfully, just took third at the Chicago Pro, took fifth at the Tampa Pro. Please welcome Stephanie Flesher. How are you, Steph?
Hey guys, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. So, unfortunately, I wish it was under better circumstances, but anytime there's a tragic event, it does present an opportunity to prevent further tragedy, further calamities and health problems and things in the future. So I believe this all started with the unfortunate death in Alicante, Spain of, she was from Czech Republic. Her name was Alina Kosinova, and she passed away. I don't know if it was the night before the show or at the show. I don't even know if those details.
It was backstage before prejudging. She never even made it on stage.
Wow. So literally backstage.
Literally at the show. Yeah.
So you've been very, very active on your Instagram ever since. I don't know how many lives. I mean, it seems like every time I open up Instagram, a lot of times I've seen you going live and talking. You've been really on a campaign to raise awareness against very dangerous, very reckless protocols that, if you want to call them gurus or prep coaches, have employed, particularly with female competitors, particularly in the divisions where extreme conditioning is most rewarded, which would be women's bodybuilding, the top end, and then women's physique, not very far behind in terms of condition. So was that the impetus for you? Because, have you been talking about this before and nobody was listening, or did you finally just decide to start talking about it?
No, that would be Jamie Pinder. She's been talking about this for years. Yeah. Why this is brought up now for me is because it was so surreal. When I heard of Elena's passing and the details of how she passed, I had this very out-of-body experience because I had the same experience, except I survived.
Wow.
So that is when I kind of self-reflected, and I'm like, wow, like that could have and should have been me. And I started to realize, I never talked about that experience to anyone because I survived. So I kind of brushed it under the rug because I didn't have, any sort of like adverse side effects or health conditions that stemmed from it post-show, other than what happened the day of the show with the medics and all of that. So I felt so compelled to share my story in hopes that I would reach others that maybe, have an extreme protocol in their hands and they're not quite sure what to do with it because they're not educated. I didn't know. So I did it. I put blind faith and trust and loyalty in a person that I respected. And I thought he had my best interest at heart. Come to find out, he didn't even know how to use one of the drugs that was prescribed to me in my protocol. He reached out to my gear source and asked him how to use it. So I now feel like a guinea pig, like I was a science experiment that survived, barely. But then look at all these others who didn't. I'm not saying they got the same protocol as me. I have thousands of DMs and I can't keep up with, and I'm now having to create like healthy boundaries in my life because this has consumed my life for over a week. But reading these stories and seeing these protocols, it is absolutely and utterly just devastating.
Wow. So let's go back. I haven't heard your personal experience. Can you recount that for us?
Yeah, I'll summarize it for you because I did do a live on my IGTV and I would just send people that way because it's over an hour long. But
oh boy.
Basically, I had already done a show in 2019 and then I decided to do another one. And at 2 weeks out, I wasn't able to get a hold of my coach. So I reached out to Shelby Starnes and I was like, hey, can you help me peak for this show? He's like, I don't like to do rush preps, but for you, yes, I will. So he sends over my protocol. It's very extreme, but I didn't know that at the time. I just kind of figured this must be what gets Shelby's girls peeled. How he dries them out the last 2 weeks. This must be it. This is going to be it for me. Like this, you know what I mean? Like this must be the secret formula. So I didn't ask questions. I just did it. The protocol was starting aldactone at 10 days out and tapering it as the show got closer to where I was 50 a.m., 50 p.m., 50 milligrams a.m., 50 p.m. And like I said, I started low for 10 days and it gradually increased to that amount. Okay. And then 3 days out, I started Diazide, half a tab a.m., half a tab p.m. So right there, you're at 1, 2, 3. I think I ended up taking like 4.5 Diazide. And then the night before the show was half a Bumex and the morning of was potentially another half. of Bumex, which is a loop diuretic for those that don't know.
Right.
And I didn't know. The only thing that I knew at that time, I knew what Diazide was. I had taken Diazide. I'd actually had another coach who gave me too much Diazide in the past, and it was my pro debut and it wrecked my look. So like I was aware of the Diazide portion, but nothing else. And again, I take full accountability and responsibility for A, what I put into my body, for B, not asking questions. But I have to say this, when you are in a depleted state and you want to win, you almost will do anything that someone who has X amount of Olympians, X amount of pros winning shows, you're just going to do what they say and not ask questions. You don't even have the energy to think. So I'm not going to sit there and think about it. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. So, I want to go back because it seems like this happens most of the time in cases where someone is behind in their condition for whatever reason. And this is what I'm struggling with. You were 2 weeks out when you contacted Shelby, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were you holding body fat, a ton of water, or a combination of both at that point?
So I had competed at the Atlantic Coast. I think it was like the end of June. Okay.
Yeah.
I decided to go ahead and push for another show 5 weeks later. I took DNP. I know with DNP, you're going to retain water and it doesn't shed off for about 10 days after.
Wow.
Okay. So I took the DNP. I did like a 2-week blast, which means you got another week and a half before it comes off. When I contacted Shelby, I looked exactly how I looked for Atlantic Coast, where I placed 7th out of 27 girls.
Okay.
So, my conditioning was there. I just needed to be a little tighter. So I just needed to dry out. So I was thinking maybe his dry out method will be what gets me there, Yeah. And it actually ruined my look. And I didn't really finish the story of what happened to me. So I did the protocol. The night before the show, I was getting my tan, and it was almost like the Bumex worked like that. I all of a sudden couldn't stand up. I was kind of like hunched over, getting my tan put on. I was like, I can't breathe. I can't move. I felt like I was going to like pass out. I was weak, feeble. My boyfriend at the time, he goes, all of a sudden it was like he was like, you were like lifeless, like in the face. He was like, I saw your face just turn into like a skeleton.
Wow.
He was like, I've never seen anything like that. And I was like, it'll pass, it'll pass. I'll be okay. Let's just finish the tan and then I'll lay down. Well, I remember laying down and I kept thinking to myself, what if I don't wake up? Like, that's a very real, that could potentially happen, because I was having like a tightness in my chest. Like it was very tight. And I remember getting up to go to the bathroom. At this point, I wasn't really peeing anymore. I'd already, expelled everything. The Bumex did its job. I lost 16 pounds in 36 hours.
Wow.
So I remember getting up and I looked in the mirror and my waist just was like that. And I was like, oh, like you're kind of thinking, hell yeah, like I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be tight and dry and lean and everything. And then I remember I was like, I can't sleep. It wasn't nerves. It wasn't anything like that. I was scared. I was scared to go to sleep and not wake up. So I started getting ready. He barely gave me any carbs, like 100 grams of rice and a whole egg with a little salt. That's it. And then I get to the show and I text him, I messaged him, and I have proof of all of this. So for people that think that, hey, I'm making it up, or I'm a drama queen, or I'm bashing Shelby, I'm not. I actually think Shelby's a good person. We still talk. We talked last week twice for a lengthy period of time. Wow. He feels genuinely sorry for what he did to me and put me through. I get to backstage and I'm shaky and I'm hot. And I messaged him and I was like, hey, I'm really hot and I'm really shaky. I don't feel well. I feel like I might pass out. No response. So then I get on stage. I'm first call out, but they removed top 4 and pulled everyone else in. So technically now I have to redo my posing again. So that's more and more and more. So I'm up there for 8 minutes. It feels like 8 hours. As soon as I walk off stage, I faint and fall to the ground. Medics come over. They take my blood pressure. They are putting ice packs all over me. They calm me down, get my heart rate down. I'm laying there for like 30 minutes, at which point my boyfriend finally busts through backstage with the Gatorade that was in my bag, and I start drinking it. And I mean, prior to me drinking it, I was told I was not allowed to have the fluids by Shelby, because I was messaging Shelby too at that point. He finally responded. He said, what are the medics telling you to do? Do not take in any potassium. And then he called me, and I remember I was like, I have a Gatorade. He was like, no fluids. And I'm thinking, at this point, I don't really care what you say. I'm drinking Gatorade.
Yeah.
Whether it was a good idea or a bad idea, whether it saved my life or not, I didn't care. Like, I needed some electrolytes. I needed something. I had already been over 24 hours without water. So that happened. And then,
Well, let me stop you just for 1 second. So the medics, you were back there for 30 minutes backstage with the medics. Were you conscious? Were you able to communicate with them what you had used? Because I would hope that they had asked you and you were able to tell them.
yeah, I kind of downplayed it and just said that I was really hot and shaky and dehydrated. So they had me sipping on some water. They were more concerned with like my heart rate and my blood pressure and getting that. Honestly, like me laying on the ground was awesome because the ground was really cold. And it seemed to almost like bring me back to life because I was like overheating in a sense, you know, I was just too hot. And that's what kind of brought on like almost like a heat exhaustion. And like, I just felt like I was going to pass out. So there's always time between prejudging and finals. I went back to the place we were staying and I did my check-ins and I was told to take another half a Diazide at that point, knowing that I was just with the medics and I have all of this in writing and proof. So I don't remember if I did. I probably did because I tend to do everything I'm told to do. I remember saying, I only have a half left. Are we going to need more? And he goes, nope, this is it. I was like, perfect. I have a half. You want me to take a half? Perfect. That worked out great. After that, I ended up placing like 6th. He never checked on me after that in the days following or that night. It was just done. That was that.
So was he aware? I'm sorry. Was he aware of the whole situation with the medics and everything?
Yes.
When he told, okay, you communicated all that?
I messaged him and I told him I was with the medics. He was like, what are they telling you to do? And I didn't respond to that. And he just immediately said, don't take in any potassium. And then I was with the medics, so I didn't respond to him. And then I just responded, okay.
Wow. Okay. And did you finish the show? Was everything?
I did finish the show. I'm pretty sure that I went back to the condo and probably ate and drank whatever I wanted at that point. I didn't really care. I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So when my body needs nutrients and fluids and like, I'm over it. Like, I don't want to die and I don't want to feel like this. So I'm not, like I said, again, it's just been over 2 years now. So I don't remember the schematics of, what happened between prejudging and finals, but I did go through my messages and I was told to take another diuretic. I did send check-ins and I looked extremely flat on stage. My stage pictures, if you go through my Instagram, you'll know I never really posted much about that show because I looked awful. I looked better before I contacted Shelby than on stage doing his protocol. And I also know that when Shelby contacted my gear source about Bumex, he was particularly asking about it for another gal that was doing my show as well. So I know for a fact there was another gal on that stage that was on Bumex at the same time with the same coach. I don't know that she had the same protocol. I don't know that, she did the LDAC on the Diazide, but I do know that he didn't have the information of how to use it, but was prescribing it to multiple people.
You coach as well, correct?
I do.
Yeah. There's so many coaches now. I've spoken to a couple in messages to medical professionals, and they're horrified that all these competitors are using diuretics and all these coaches are basically prescribing diuretics when none of them have any medical training. There's no medical monitoring going on. They say we use these in a clinical setting under very, very controlled circumstances, and we're monitoring blood pressure, heart rate, all kinds of things. And they can't believe that that bodybuilders are using these things so callously, so recklessly.
Yeah, all for a place in our trophy. And I never really realized how dangerous, diuretics were, how quickly they could kill you, like way faster than PEDs, way faster. You can overdose on a diuretic and be dead in like an hour.
I say that all the time. I could shoot 10 bottles of Tren right now.
We're not being educated at all. We're not being educated in doing our due diligence for ourselves, but our coaches are not warning us as to what they're putting in the protocol either. They're just saying, here, do this, here, take this pill, and we're almost expected to do as we're told because that makes us coachable.
Right. So how
And a lot
common?
of times, you know, we don't want to have those hard conversations because we don't want to be the naggy client who is annoying and asks a million questions and is uncoachable.
Right. So our diuretics, they're fairly much standard. Pretty much every competitor, with a few rare exceptions, probably uses some dose of diuretics right before a contest.
I would say it's more, if you ask 10 competitors, 8 out of 10 are going to say they have and do use diuretics.
Okay.
It's very rare that people don't. The only people that don't are the people that they just genetically have like a thinner skin and they don't hold water and they get very dry and they have really good conditioning and they don't need it. I've even seen where, like Jamie Pinder, for instance, she gets hard and dry and lean as nails. Yeah. She still takes it, even though she didn't need to. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess the big question is, because, you know, there's so many coaches and you say 80-90% of competitors are using diuretics. How do we know? How do you know, as an athlete, as a coach, what's a safe amount or dosage or length of time? Because none of us in this conversation have medical training, which is really what you would need. You would need to be a nurse, a doctor.
Honestly, I think that there needs to be some sort of website where we have medical professionals, pharmacologists, people that specialize in this, that also know that we are taking PEDs and can put out the educational information that we need. Even though they wouldn't suggest it or recommend it, they can put aside that portion and be like, okay, if you're gonna do it, here's how you would do it safely and monitor it. So that if you see a protocol that is far beyond what a medical professional has put out there, then you're like, nope, not doing that. Because, you know, I was on this website and I was told, and I know now by professionals, this is a no-go. We just need education. Knowledge is power. And the fact that my coach didn't even know and still gave it to me, that blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not surprising because, you know,
it's like a bro science, honestly. This whole thing is a trial and error bro science. Well, it didn't kill me, but, you know, like I survived, so let's do it again on someone else. But like, for instance, I was told by Shelby that after what happened with me, he calls it my incident, that he never used BMX anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I saw a protocol that he used with Jody Engel for nationals last year. He didn't use BMX. You know what he did? He doubled the aldactone. She was taking 200 milligrams twice, or 100 milligrams twice a day for like 3-4 days. But prior to that, she was taking 50 twice a day and then 25 twice a day. Like, she did it for 10 days, but he doubled her dosage. So, and then brought in the diazide.
I don't understand. And hopefully you can enlighten me. Why would anybody need to take diuretics for more?
Nobody needs to take that much diuretic.
I mean, I'm saying the length of time. Why would you need diuretics a week or 2 days out?
That's a question that I would love for Shelby to answer, because why isn't he speaking on his protocols right now? He's very aware that this situation is happening. He's not the only coach that's been brought to light. I'm going to keep posting. I just have to create boundaries in my life because it did consume my life. But my inbox is flooded, and I can't even keep up. So it's not just Shelby. I'm not pointing blame on one person. And again, I do take ownership and responsibility for my actions, but I just wish that these coaches would too, because they're not coming forward and saying, you know what, that was an asshole move that I made writing that. Yeah, I shouldn't have wrote it. Or my theory behind writing it was X, Y, and Z. Or, you know what, she wasn't where she needed to be, but I know she really wanted to do the show. And I did my best to dry her out by writing this protocol. Okay, but explain the science behind the protocol that you wrote. Mm-hmm. Because he's apologized to me for causing me harm. So if you knew that was harmful, why would you do it? Oh, you didn't know until it did harm me? That's something you should know.
Mm. Let's go back to the athlete taking responsibility just for a second. If you're a competitor and you're signed up for a show that's 2 weeks away and you're clearly not going to be ready in 2 weeks, you know, is it your responsibility?
Your coach should tell you.
Well, your coach should tell you. I mean, shouldn't you, especially if you've competed multiple times, shouldn't you have some level of awareness that it's not going to happen? I'm not going to be ready on May 22nd. It's just not possible. I got to pick another show, something. I can't.
I think a lot of times people don't want to accept failure, like dropping out. So they'll do even more extremes to push themselves even harder. For me, I knew I was going to be ready. I was ready because I had already done a show. I had maintained contest shape for 5 weeks.
Okay.
You know, I was just holding water and I needed to expel the water. and I needed someone that was knowledgeable enough and knew how to peak people.
Yeah. Now, do you see diuretics as the sole problem in this prep process, or
Hell no.
I'm hard when you talk about DNP. I get a lot of shit from people like Boston, others who they think DNP can be used safely, and I don't know a lot about it. But I've seen deaths. I had a training partner who was using it, and he had a really bad experience with it. Clen's widely used. It can give you heart arrhythmia.
Yeah.
These things are all very dangerous. Are diuretics the number one problem, or are all these cutting drugs?
I don't think that we have to like prioritize which one's worse.
Mm-hmm.
I think that obviously everything we're doing is wrong. That's why it's illegal. Diuretics can kill you the quickest and the soonest and the fastest.
Yeah.
The PED protocols that I'm seeing though, especially for women and especially for young women and like NPC athletes. Oh my gosh. Like I got goosebumps because these coaches that are writing this, it's like, how do you sleep at night? Knowing that you just programmed that for like a 21-year-old girl and it's her first show and you're putting her on 120 Clen and 100 T3 and you've got her on all these other uppers and then you're blasting her with like all these compounds. Yeah. Like it's for a local level NPC show. Yeah. She doesn't need all of that.
And I mean, let's talk about divisions, because theoretically PED use should be lowest at the bikini end of the spectrum, theoretically, and probably highest at the bodybuilder end of the spectrum. Theoretically.
I'm going to agree with that, but I'm also going to say this. If you look at the level of conditioning in each division, it's almost the exact same minus the amount of muscle people have. Like if you look at bikini, these girls are shredded. They've got ab veins. They've got leg veins. They're just not flexing and posing on stage. They walk and stand there. If you actually see them in person, you're going to look at them. You're like, okay, you look kind of emaciated, but like you are really lean. Like you're really lean. You're dry. Like your skin is thin. You know what I mean? Like their body fat percentage is probably the same as mine.
Wow. No, I didn't realize. I mean, I don't see them as being that lean. I'm backstage and around the shows with them, but I do see them. I have talked to some of them, and they're on growth hormone. They're on serious amounts of Anabar, Primo, Clen, T3, all this.
8X, Nova, Clen, T3. Yeah.
A lot. And a lot of them, bikini does tend to be younger girls, which is that makes it even more frightening to me, because, you're going to be 40 years old with a hairline up to here and stuff.
Nobody's thinking about being 40 years old right now.
No, I know.
Or 50 or 60 or 70.
I know they're not, because I was young once too. But so let me ask you this. You've gotten a ton of DMs, obviously, with women sharing their experiences with these protocols. And I assume a lot of them, like yourself, they've kept their messages, they've kept their emails. So yeah. if they're ever challenged on it, they can say, nope, here's my coach's email to me. Here's his text message to me. Yeah. I want to know, have you gotten any emails from anyone telling you to be quiet or stop talking about me, or any threats or anything like that?
Well, I have purposely, obviously tried to leave everyone's name out, intentionally, as far as like who's sending me the message, but I'm posting the coach's name. The only issue that I've had is when Leo posted initially the podcast that we all did together, I got, a couple guys that were mean, saying things I've heard before, Helly made one comment and I talked to Shelby about it. And he literally told her, Stephanie means well, like, don't go for her. And then Rachel Daniels came at me in my DMs really hard in voice memes. And I've screen recorded the whole thing because it's just astonishing at how disgusting and distasteful she was to me in the DMs. And so I left it as, I'm not going to argue with you. And, everyone's entitled to view things in their own way. And just because it hasn't happened to her doesn't mean that it's not happening. And it hasn't happened to her yet. So what's going to happen if one day it does? Is she going to turn around and apologize to me or say, oh, you were right? And then I would never say I told you so. But you know what I mean? Like there's just a level of like compassion and empathy, and people are, trying to create a divide here and pick sides. And it's not about that. It's about solidarity. These protocols do exist. Whether I did the protocol or not, the protocol should have never been written. Period.
Yeah. I mean, I saw her on, Boston did that video with Leo. It was called The Guru of Death, I think. It was
Yeah, that was the one I was on.
So I think in the comments, Rachel said to Boston, you're dead to me now. You're dead.
Oh,
to me.
They don't like each other anyway.
Yeah. But because we've seen a lot of Shelby clients come out. This
And
isn't
of
about
course,
Shelby.
the
This isn't
people
about
that,
Shelby.
of course, Shelby has successful clients, and the ones that he markets and the ones that are winning and doing well, they're going to stand by his side. Of course, because it's not happening to them. It hasn't happened to them. Or if it has, they just aren't admitting it. Because I would love to see Helly's protocol. I would love to see Rachel's protocol. I would love to see Melissa Brodsky's protocol. Because look at how much they've changed in just the last 2-3 years. I would love to see their protocols.
Well, you're talking gear as well, I'm sure, right?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing I want to get into with coaches, particularly coaches have an extra level of responsibility to female clients because the male hormones do cause a lot of irreversible changes. The voice, the hair, the facial bones, just things that, give an androgynous look and sound that you can't go back. And you're 24-year-old girl, and now you're gonna have that voice for the rest of your life, and you're never gonna get your hair back. And I just don't know who's responsible, because I assume if you're getting into this sport, if you've turned professional, you must know the dangers of all these things as a woman. What to avoid. Don't take this, take that. So whose responsibility is it as a female competitor? Is it your responsibility, or is it the coach's responsibility to make sure you don't get these permanent side effects?
Teamwork makes the dream work. You got to do your own research and you have to ask questions, but your coach also needs to inform you. We hire a coach because we simply don't know. Right. And we expect that they do. And we also expect that they're going to help us reach our goals and our dreams, and that they care about us. And when you say care, you would think that means our general overall health and physical well-being. Yeah. Right. So when you're writing these protocols, you have to know these could potentially cause irreversible side effects. There should be at the bottom, hey, if you do this, this could happen. This may happen. This will happen. You know what I mean? And that I do think that obviously people know more about the adverse side effects of PEDs. But I think people don't know enough about the diuretics.
Yeah. And I mean, you could say that the coach's job, if you boil it all down, the coach's job is to make you win. You're paying them because.
But at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I was going to say. There should be some degree where they have to always be aware of the health risk, and there's a line where they won't cross. But I'm sure there are some coaches, and I don't know who, and I'm not going to try to name, but I would hope that they're going to that point with you, that they're going to tell you, okay, this might happen to you. Do you still want to do it?
Exactly.
How often does that ever happen? Have you ever heard that?
No, that's the issue is we're not able to make a well-informed, educated decision if we just simply don't know. And I do think that it is the coach's responsibility to inform their clients because they do know. I would never, if my boss tells me to do something, I'm probably just going to do it. Right. Because I do what I'm told. That's my boss. Well, it's kind of the same thing in this aspect where your coach tells you your plan, you just kind of do it, Yeah. But at the same time, if it's something that could potentially harm you, the person writing the plan or the protocol should send you the warnings as well.
Yeah.
And then you're able to say no because you're an adult. And obviously, people are Rachel was coming at me and she's like, he didn't put a gun to your head and make you do it. He didn't put the pill in your mouth and make you swallow it. You're right. He didn't. But he also didn't tell me what could happen if I did do it. He just said, do it. I did it.
Do you think he knew what could happen or he didn't?
Well, I'm finding out now he didn't know about the Bumex, but I'm also finding out it's really hard for me to understand the mentality when he's writing these protocols, because I've seen lots of them now. The Jody one, what is the theory behind that? What is the science behind that? Jody was shredded. Jody was ready. She did not need any of that, let alone 10 days of it. I'm not understanding why it's being implemented.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and again, because if you're not ready, then as a coach, you should be look, you're not going to be ready. And I'm not going to give you this crazy extreme protocol to get you ready, because it may make you look worse and it could kill you.
Yeah.
Or you could be you know what, let's go ahead and push for the show, but we'll do a little diuretics, not much, they'll do what they do, but they're not going to, do everything.
Yeah. I have to question how often these extreme protocols give a good result on stage anyway.
I haven't found a single person that has told me I did this extreme protocol and I looked good, or I was completely fine after. I was fine after. I don't know how. I honestly, to God, think that this is my purpose right now, because I don't know why I survived or how I didn't end up in the hospital. Y'all, everyone's seen the protocol, right? Everyone's seen it. Why Elena and not me? Why Mariola and not me?
I mean, I think a lot of people who
and there are people taking less and dying. There are people taking less and have heart conditions or are in the hospital. Or Jody, is now 30 years old and has to, she actually, I want everyone to go and watch Jody's story. Leo just posted it. Her story will leave you in tears.
Wow. She's
on bed rest. She cannot move. She cannot work out. She'll never compete again. She can't get up because her resting heart rate's 140. If she gets up and moves around, her heart rate gets going, she'll have a heart attack and die. Wow. This is 9 months post show.
So was it diuretics in her case? Or was it something?
It was diuretics, extreme diuretics and dehydration, because hers was a 2-day show. So she was dehydrated for almost close to 3 days. No water. Wow. Tons of diuretics.
All right. So, we've already established coaches are not medical doctors. They're not registered nurses. They're not even pharmacists. They have no formal training in this. So how can you even know which coach to trust as far as having that level of knowledge about the proper dosing, length of time to stay on it, side effects, things to look out for? I don't know who I would trust if I was in your situation, or who I could trust.
That again relies on both parties. Once you get your protocol, you need to type it into Google and start, getting as much information as you can before you just agree to do it. You need to ask questions to your coach. Ask him, why are you making me take this? I've never taken this much before. What is this going to do? And then people don't realize like drug interactions. Okay. Because Shelby was like, well, I didn't know she was taking a blood pressure medicine. So it was almost like he was blaming the blood pressure medication and it had like an adverse side effect with diuretics. I don't even think that's a thing.
Well, it might be, but that's the thing is a doctor would know that, a nurse would know that, even a pharmacist.
But also okay. And I understand as athletes, we don't tell our coaches everything. And sometimes we do more than we're told. Sometimes we do less than we're told. So there is a responsibility that lies in that. And that's when we can't blame the coach, because the coach simply doesn't know. The coach thinks we're doing their plan, but really we're not. That's our problem. That's our fault. I'm simply saying if we are doing that plan to a T, why are we doing that plan initially to begin with anyway? You know what I mean?
So we need to transition over to the other side of this. Jake Wood made a post on the This Is Bodybuilding. He commented on someone else's Instagram, This Is Bodybuilding's Instagram page, that he was very upset by the situation, what happened with Alina. And, he's aware that these things have been happening for years now. So he met with Jim Mannion and Tyler Mannion, and they're talking about trying to reduce the priority or the rewarding of extreme conditioning, that really dry, sucked out look with the skeleton face, and you could see every little fiber and vein. They've tried this before. I can't recall how long ago it was, but I want to say it was about 10 or 15 years ago, at least, where they came out with a mandate saying, okay, female bodybuilders, we want to see, I can't remember the number. It was an actual number. They said 10% less condition or 15%. They ascribed an actual number to it. And I think some women showed up as directed. They showed up a little softer, and sometimes that was rewarded. Sometimes they would win, and the women who were in extreme condition would be placed down. And then at other shows, it would be the exact opposite. The softer women. Yeah,
there's no consistency in the judging panel, and someone needs to be held accountable for that, because how are they going to say one thing and do another?
Condition. Can we? I always say we can't put the genie back in the bottle. Once you've set a certain standard for anything, size, you can't say, oh, we don't want you guys to be as big anymore. They've tried that. We don't want you to be as lean anymore. They've tried that. Athletes in general, they keep pushing. They want to be.
Well, that's evolution.
Right. Every sport evolves. So how can you say, how could Jim Mannion, Tyler Mannion come out and say, all right, we're not going to have women with super strided glutes and hollowed out eyes and cheeks winning shows anymore. If you look we're going to reward a healthier look. Would that help matters? I mean, can that even
I do think it would. I think that there can be a new standard that is created. And I think if the whole lineup shows up and everybody's overly conditioned and overly striated, nobody wins. Nobody wins first place, because we don't want that. And this is a message to tell y'all, quit showing up like that. You know what I mean? Like, you probably looked better last week before you did the extreme diuretics. You probably had a little water on you, but that was still pretty because you were full. You weren't overly dry. You looked healthy. You're not up here cramping and shaking and falling down on stage. Like, multiple women I saw at Chicago and Tampa literally were falling down on stage.
Yeah. I remember that one. There was one
Patty Hansen.
Where was it Steve kept saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And the expediters kept coming over to her.
Yeah,
she looked ready to go.
That should not be something that someone feels like they have to do that to stand up against all these other girls. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's a pressure that we feel that we have to do this to, be looked at, to get first call out and stand up against the rest. Now, I'm not going to say that, conditioning doesn't matter, because it absolutely does, but there's a fine line. Okay. And I'm just going to say this as an ambassador of the sport that I love more than anything. Why would you want a female to sound like a man and then you reward their conditioning? That's literally like you're saying, we love her conditioning, but we don't really care what she sounds like. And obviously she's done a lot of drugs and she's put her health at risk, but we love her body though.
Yeah. I mean, but I've heard the flip side of that. I think Iris is pretty vocal about that. It's like, why are we judging the women for, they have to be facially pretty, they have to have feminine voices, and the men can look like a gargoyle. Nobody cares what they sound like or look like. They're just looking at the physique. If it's purely about being an athlete and being the best athlete and presenting the best possible physique, why should it matter that you're losing your quote unquote? Because
femininity should be part of the criteria, because women are beautiful and we are doing things to make us no longer beautiful and no longer women. Like, that's the reason that female bodybuilding went away for so long, because it got out of control and out of hand. I remember the last year that it was there, female bodybuilding was at the Olympia. I was fourth row and I had to get up and leave. I couldn't look at it. I put my hand up to like cover the person's face, and from here down, all I saw was a man. And I had to remove myself, and I went outside. And I was like, I can't believe what these people are doing. I can't believe this is what they want to do. I can't believe the judges want this. And then next thing you know, it was gone.
I feel like, yeah, you're right. Ms. Olympia was gone for 7 years. We didn't have a Ms. Olympia. But I feel like it was about the same time that women's physique was introduced, when women's bodybuilding went away. And I sort of felt like that was an effort to bring back a level of femininity and to prevent. I love
that effort in the beginning. And then again, here we go with the evolution over time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was supposed to be a softer look. I remember the guy
Juliana, DLB, but then you've got, Juliana winning, and you've got Danny Reardon in second, and she was peeled to the bone, overly striated glutes. That was insane. Do you remember that year that I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. But
it was beautiful. I commend that level of conditioning, and I actually know she didn't take a lot. I just know she did a shit ton of cardio. Yeah. And but think about this: what happened to her after? Where is she now? She doesn't compete anymore.
Danny, yeah, I haven't heard a thing about Danny in a while.
Yeah,
she's been missing for quite a couple of years. MIA. But let's play devil's advocate, because I had this conversation with Jose. We did a show. I'm not sure when it's going to post, but he's a judge, and I've judged. I don't know if you've judged, but at your level. At the top pro level, it's very, very difficult to judge, because these people you're all genetic.
I wouldn't want to do it. You couldn't pay me money to do it.
But this is why condition has to be a deciding factor. You're looking at people with ideal bone structures, muscle bellies, mass, shape. You all have that. So how do you start picking them?
We don't all have shape.
Obviously, there's levels. Some people have much better shape than others, but you wouldn't.
Right. And here's what I think. I think that the people that lack the shape play the conditioning card more.
Well, they have to. They have
to. That's all they can do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can have someone that has both. They might have more shape and a little less conditioning, but that should be rewarded over someone that's overly conditioned.
Yeah. And, I as I said, I don't want to steal his quote, but Jose believes that's, the total package does win most of the time. I mean, let's look at, you were in the Chicago Pro. Keon Pearson won the 212 division, and people were griping because they said, well, there were a few guys that were leaner than him. Why is Keon winning? He's not even quote unquote
No
in
one can
shape.
touch his shape.
That's it. He had the best total package. He wasn't fat. He wasn't out of shape at all. There were guys on that stage in the 212 leaner than him. Did they have better size, shape,
It's not
structure?
a how lean can you get contest.
I mean, if it was, the leanest people would always win, and that's definitely not.
That's
the
what
case.
I'm saying. Then what? Yeah, and that's what I think needs to be reiterated here. Is this? I think everyone just wants to get as lean as they can be. That's not what the criteria isn't. Everyone get to 3% body fat, and then let's see what y'all look like.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know what's going to happen moving forward with the judging standards. They talked about doing it across all divisions, which I don't think that's feasible.
But here's my thing. Just because they say something doesn't mean they're going and they put it out there and it's on the NPC website as this is the rules and criteria. Who's going to make them enforce it?
Who's going to police the police, basically?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
and then here's the other thing. So let's say they do at the pro level at the pro shows, but then they're not going to at the Olympia.
No.
They're not going to at like the Arnold Classic.
No,
that's a whole nother level, a whole nother breed of lineups.
Agreed. So, I agree with you. I don't think anything major is going to happen. We're not going to see any real changes, but if, you've been doing it, and I think you've been encouraging others to speak out as well, raising awareness about the extreme protocols, at the very least, if every athlete out there now knows, man, I better really look into these things that I'm using the last few days before a show. What are the standard doses used in clinical situations? What are the side effects? What do I need to be careful for? And do I need to keep potassium on hand? Or if I'm using this type of diuretic, what do I have? I think
it would be great if, the IFBB and NPC use their platform to help educate at this point, because they can get the correct information out there from the correct people, and it would help everyone. It would help the coaches learn. It would help the competitors learn. And then it would just all be in one place on one website.
I think that's a great idea. I don't think it can happen through the organization. I mean, legally, they can't tell you. It would be a really bad look.
But it's not hard to start a website.
Right. So I don't know who's going to do that, or if anyone is going to do that, but
I also think there should almost be like a Google review for coaches, and you're always going to have people that had a good experience and you have someone that didn't, but at least it's out there where people are like, now I've talked to current clients, former clients. I've seen this person's experience. I've seen this person's, and now I can decide based on the knowledge that I've gained if I want to hire that coach or not after talking to them and researching about them and seeing their methods, you know what I mean? Looking at their reviews. There needs to be something like that in place too.
Like a Yelp review, like for restaurants.
Yeah, but for coaches.
Yeah, I mean, because all we have now to go on is, Leo in Boston, they've done a series of videos focusing on a coach. Each episode of podcast would be one coach, good coach or bad coach. And, it seems like every coach that there's been a lot of bad experiences with, in the comment section, there's a ton of other clients defending that coach.
That's always going to be the case. Whenever you have a topic that's controversial, you're always going to have a left and a right? Yeah. And that's completely fine and well. That is getting all of the information out there, because you have the people that had a good, you had the people that had a bad. Now I can make a decision, because it might happen to me, it might not happen to me, but at least I know that it might happen to me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
So if if someone comes to you and they say, I'm looking for a coach, are there certain coaches you could recommend? I'm not going to go name them, but do you know certain coaches that for a fact?
I'm working on that.
Have never given anyone anything dangerous to do? Because I don't even know if that's possible, because there's a level of danger in everything we're doing as enhanced athletes. It's how far are you willing to go, and what risk are you willing to take?
If you're a caring coach, if you really care, you would educate. When you have 400 plus clients, there's no way in hell you can do that.
I can't imagine anybody. How do you do the math? I don't know how anybody could.
And that's why this shit's happening.
400 active clients.
Yes.
At one time. Wow.
Plus 400 plus.
I've heard of 100 and that blew my mind. Like 400, that's staggering.
I lost my mind during my prep when I hit 60 and I was like, I hired an assistant. I was like, I can't. And now I have decided that I don't want even 60. I only want like 30 to 40 so I can give my undivided care and attention to them. But then I can also still have my own personal career and my own personal life because it becomes time consuming where you're never allowed to get away from your phone or your computer.
Oh, I mean, I only coach a handful of people and it's texting all the, can I eat this?
24/7 communication. You're telling people what to put in their bodies. So they're going to be texting you when they get a stomach ache or their digestion's off and it's like, do y'all have any respect for my time? No, but I also have to have respect for them because I'm the one that's telling them to do it. So you need to text me at 2 a.m. if something's happening to you, because ultimately I'm the one that told you to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this. Everyone seems like they need a coach. Do you think everyone needs a coach?
I don't think everyone needs a coach, but I do think everyone needs a set of eyes because we get in our own heads in prep and we don't see ourselves in the right way, in the right light. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best. Most people have, like, you know how to get in shape, you know how to eat, you know how to do your cardio, but I'm sure it's the last 3 to 5 weeks is when you look in the mirror and you can't
I say
objectively
single
look.
digits for sure. But Juliana Malacarne never had a coach and she didn't even ever weigh her food.
Wow. Well, there you go.
She eyeballed her food. She just said, I ate for what my body needed and wanted.
Yeah. I mean, it can be that you have to have tremendous awareness of your body and what it needs. And it probably takes a lot of experience. And
Sean Ray never had a coach.
Oh, Kevin Leveroni, Dorian Yates. I mean, we could go on down the line.
I think the reason that a lot of people have a coach is because they feel like they will stick to the plan better because someone has the reins on them. Yeah. And if they don't, then they're too lax on their diet. No one's putting them in check. And there's no accountability factor. Because what are you going to do? Call yourself out on your bullshit? Probably not.
That's true. Because that's the good thing about a coach is, if you're an asshole and you go and eat a cheesecake 2 weeks out from your show and you post it on Instagram, the coach he'll tear you a new one for that.
Oh, don't get me started. I see my clients. I'm like, do y'all not think I don't follow you?
But
I don't call them out anymore. I simply wait for their check-ins and I'll be like, I ask any deviations and I let them tell me. If they don't tell me, then I'm like, that's a lie. And I show them their screenshot. Why are you lying to me? You're only sabotaging your own progress.
Yeah. And, I hate to throw it on a lot of these. I say this a lot of time because I came up, I'm almost 52 and I came up in an era where most competitive bodybuilders, and that's all there was back then. There were no other divisions. We came from athletic backgrounds, wrestling, football. We were used to a certain amount of discipline, being coached, doing what our coaches told us and not deviating from that plan, having to make weight, things like that. Whereas now we have so many divisions and so many newer people to the sport who want to compete that don't have that discipline, and they will cheat on their diet and they will slack on the cardio and they will lie to their coaches about it. So it's you can't just blame the coaches. Some of these athletes or would-be competitors, they want the experience, they want the accolades of their Instagram pictures and standing on stage, but they don't really want to suffer. They don't want to do
a lot of people don't want to put in the work, or a lot of people think that, it's all glamorous and it sounds so easy until they start doing it and they realize this is fucking hard.
Yeah, I got to eat the chicken breast 5 times a day and I get this much.
For 20 weeks? Ugh.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, if nothing else comes out of this positively in terms of actual changes to the judging or anything like that, at the very least, you've probably been at the forefront of this, obviously, Fierce Fit Steph on Instagram. You're raising awareness and you're making people aware that they need to know what they're putting in their bodies. You can't just blindly, even if it's a big name coach who's got X amount of pros and X amount of wins, doesn't necessarily mean they know exactly what they're doing with things like diuretics, which are very, very powerful and potentially deadly compounds. You need to take that in your own matters in your own hands, do your research, because you're the one, it's your life, it's your health at the end of the day.
Unless you don't value your life, then just don't ask questions and do your plan and hope for the best and pray that, you don't die.
Yeah. And I mean, all of you guys, nothing, a plastic trophy's not worth dying for. A pro title is not worth dying for.
You know, yeah, Jody has an IFBB, you know, to her name. She can never even do a pro show.
Wow.
And she will tell you, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would never do it. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the money aspect. There's so little money in the sport.
It's a poor man's sport.
It's much less money for the women. Obviously, we know that. So it's definitely not worth risking your health, and certainly not your life for. Not at all. Not at all. Anyway, Stephanie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having the courage to do this, because you know, a lot of people are probably upset with you, the people that you've been calling out.
Not that many, actually.
I mean, some people are upset. We all want.
That's okay. You know what? I'm glad it's me, because I feel like if it were to be maybe someone else, they couldn't take it, you know, and maybe that's why it's taken this long for people to stand up and come forward. And if I had to be the person that crusaded that, then by all means, I can handle the heat. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for having the courage to do it regardless.
Thank you.
You know, there's a lot of other people who have been quiet, or they're still quiet, and they're like, I don't want to say anything. I don't want anyone. I don't want this coach to get mad at me. Or, you know, it had to be done, and you did it. So
I do want to say this really quick. If you have a story and you want it to be heard, all you need to do is DM me, and I will put it out there. I've started putting it on my highlight reel and saving it, so that I'm collecting evidence and stories for people to watch and learn and read and educate, to know like what's too much T3 or what's too much this or too much that. And then you hear the horror stories. I've got it all in my highlights. So if you have a story and you think it was extreme for you, whether it's a standard or it is extreme or it isn't, you want it heard, you want it posted, just DM me and I will put it out there at some point in time. Maybe not immediately. If you want, I'll leave your name out of it. You don't even have to say the coach's name if you don't want to, unless you want to. I just want to continue to spread awareness. A lot of people are too scared to come forward. So this is a way for you to anonymously.
Well, great idea. Great idea. So that is Fierce Fit Steph with a PH at the end.
Yeah. Or Jamie Pinder or Donna Disley. The three of us, we all are creating highlights and posting stories.
Cool. Well, only good can come out of this ultimately.
I hope so.
Like, unfortunately, that's the only positive thing, is when there is something terrible that happens, there is that opportunity for good to come out of it, and some good has come out. Because if you can prevent a lot of other women from going through this, if you can prevent,
I've already had so many people message me and, you know, not only say like, thank you for doing this and being brave and courageous, but like, you saved me because I got a protocol and I'm not doing it now. And they ran. Well, they wouldn't have ran unless they heard heard all of this. So again, like, if it reaches one person, it was worth it.
I mean, if you save one human life, I mean, imagine that. Even if you save just one person from dying, that's so powerful. That's a human life.
You're going to make me tear up now, so we should go.
Yeah, we should go. Thank you, Stephanie Flesher, Fierce Fit Steph on Instagram. As you heard, women, you can share your stories on her DMs.
And not just women, men too. I've got men coming forward.
Oh, yeah. I forgot men actually use diuretics and get hurt sometimes too. It does happen, guys. So yeah, I don't know why we're just making this a purely women's issue, but it applies to all competitors. So yeah, thank you so much. And guys, lot to think about, guys. Lot to think about.
Yeah, be safe. I started a hashtag Eyes Wide Open because we really all need to open our eyes to this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. And guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all that good stuff, please. Appreciate you watching Ronline Report with Stephanie Flesher. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.